All right, you guys, today is a sub, and we can't take a day off of learning, so I'm making this video. Now I need you to watch carefully because the sub's not going to push pause if you need them, him or her, whoever it is. They're not going to push pause. So if you can't take notes and watch the video at the same time, just watch the video and then practice on the worksheet. Now, I'm going to go as slow as possible, but like I said, if you just listen carefully and watch, it's nothing super new today. We're going to just be combining like terms on a more advanced level. So let's start. Okay, looking at my first example, 2x plus 3x, starting out very basic, we're just combining like terms. We know 2x's plus 3x's is equal to 5x's. So very basic, that part's not new. All right, let's look at this next one. We have negative x plus 2x. Well, remember, this just means negative 1x's plus 2x's. So negative 1x's plus 2x's will equal 1x. Now remember, 1x is just equal to x. Starting out very basic. All right, looking at something like this, we have negative 3n's plus 3n's, and we know that if you combine like terms, that's going to be 0n's, which is just equal to 0. All right, let's do a little bit more advanced here. This time we're going to have to distribute and combine like terms. So looking at this, we have 7 plus 2 times all that stuff. So before we combine like terms, we need to distribute our 2 through to what we're multiplying it by. So we have 2 times x, which is 2x. And then we have 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. So now we've distributed that through. Don't forget it's 7 plus all that stuff that we just distributed through. And now combine like terms and write it in standard form. So we have 7 minus 6. Those are like terms, so we can combine them. 7 minus 6 is 1. So we have 1 plus 2x. Now we know we can't combine 1 plus 2x together. They're not like terms. But we are going to rewrite this in standard form, meaning the largest degree to the lowest degree. So 2x to the degree 1 is larger than our constant. So we have 2x plus 1. This is now written in standard form, and this would be considered our final answer. And before we go any further, I just want to verify, make sure we're good with standard form. So look at this polynomial. This is in standard form. Now, even though this negative 3 is the smallest thing in our polynomial here, we don't look at that. We look at the degrees. So this is degree 3, so it is the highest, so it needs to come first. That's why negative 3x cubed is written first. And then plus 4x squared, because squared is after cubed, and then plus 2x because x is to the first power, and then our constant. So once again, standard form means highest degree, then the next highest degree, then the next highest degree, and then our next highest degree. Technically, if we want to get technical, guys, negative 3 is negative 3x to the 0. Because remember, x to the 0 is just a 1. So keep in mind that negative 3 is the lowest because we have an x to the 0 power if we wanted to get technical. Or you can just think of it as, well, that's just a number. There's no x's. So it's my lowest term. So hopefully you understand what standard form is once again. Let's combine like terms here. Well, first of all, notice we have this negative 2 multiplied to all that stuff. So this means we've got to distribute it through. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x's. And then we have negative 2 times negative 2 very carefully would be positive 4. And then we have this plus 5 out here, so plus 5. We distribute, and now we combine like terms, and then we'll put it in standard form. So negative 2x, there's no other x's to combine with x. So negative 2x, and then 4 plus 5 is 9, positive 9, so 2x plus 9. And that would be our final answer. It's in standard form, the highest degree to the lowest degree. All right, let's do another one, a little bit more advanced. All right, there's a lot going on in this one, and we have to be very careful. So notice this -2 is being added or subtracted from all this stuff right here. So we've got to be really careful with this. Also, I want you to notice that -2 right here is being multiplied to all that stuff. So I'm going to distribute -2 through first. Now I would be very careful because we need to make sure to distribute our negative sign through with the 2 so that we don't make any sign errors when we're combining like terms. So we're not only going to multiply 2 through, we're going to multiply -2 through. So let's distribute that. -2 times 4 is -8. And then -2 times -3x is positive 6x. Now don't forget about this -2 out here in front that was being added to all that stuff. Now we can combine like terms. So we have 6x's, no other x's, so we have 6x. And then we have -2 minus 8, which is -10, so -10. And this is in standard form. So once again, the reason this one was trickier is because we had a -2 being multiplied through. So make sure you're really careful and multiply the negative through with it. And then you've distributed your signs through with that, so you're good, and you can just drop down what's ever left, such as this -2, and then just combine like terms. Let's do another one. All right, looking at this one, we have x times all that stuff plus 4 times all that stuff. So we're going to go ahead and distribute things and then combine like terms. So looking right here at this piece, I'm going to distribute x through. X times 2 is 2x's. Then x times -2x, be very careful. We have -2x squared. Don't forget the squared. Guys, x times x would have been x squared. All right, now I'm going to move on to this piece. Now we're distributing +4 through to each term. So +4 times by x is +4x's. Then +4 times -3 is -12. Okay, now we'll combine like terms. Now it's going to need to be in standard form. So I always start by combining all like terms of my highest degree and then working my way down because then it's already in standard form. So looking at this, the highest degree is -2x squared. So I'm going to write that first. There's no other x squareds. Being careful to not forget the signs. So we have -2x squareds. And as I go, I like to cross them out so I don't miss anything. -2x squareds. Now let's combine the next highest degree. So the next highest degree would be our x's. So we have 2x's plus 4x's, which is 6x's. So plus 6x's. And we just took care of those, so I'm going to cross them out. And then all we have left is our -12. So we're just going to put that on there. Now notice it's in standard form, the highest degree, the next highest degree, and the lowest degree. So we're finished here. All right, here's another one where we have to be very careful with negatives. So notice it's -3 times all that stuff, -2 times all that stuff. Let's go ahead and distribute everything very carefully. So looking at this, I'm going to distribute -3 through to all this stuff. So -3 times x is -3x. Careful, -3 times -1 is +3. Now looking at this next part, we have to be very careful because this is a -2. -2 that we're distributing through. So be very careful as you distribute -2. -2 times 2p is -4p's. -2 times +1 would be -2. So then from here, we'll combine all, and I wrote different variables. So I should have wrote an x instead of p's. My fault. When I wrote down the problem, I wrote that a little bit weird. So x's. So we had -4 x's, not p's. So then from here, we'll combine all like terms. So starting with my highest degree, but being very, very careful. So it looks like our highest degree in this one is x. So negative 3x plus negative 4x is negative 7x's. I just combined those two things. Now we'll combine positive 3 and negative 2. 3 minus 2 is 1, so plus 1. And once again, this is in standard form because it starts with the highest degree and then it goes down to our lowest degree. Highest degree, lowest degree. All right, so you have to be careful with negatives. Be so careful, especially when distributing through negatives. So we had 2 negatives in this one. We had to be very careful. All right, we're going to go through and combine like terms in this one. So looking at this, notice we have this polynomial added to this polynomial. So no, even though we have these parentheses, because we are adding here, because we're adding, we can just pretend like those parentheses are not there, and we can combine like terms. So what we have here is x squared minus 2x minus 3 plus, and plus is the easiest one, because then we don't have to distribute any negatives. So we have plus 2x squared plus 5x. So notice I just rewrote it without parentheses, and since it's plus, we can do that. All right, so now let's combine like terms, starting with my highest degree. 1x squared plus 2x squared would be 3x squared. Then I cross them out as I go so I don't miss anything. Negative 2x's plus 5x's would be plus 3x's. Combine negative 2x and 5x. And then we just have our minus 3 and no other numbers to combine it with. So we have minus 3. Now notice this is in standard form, highest degree to next highest degree to our lowest degree. So we're finished. All right, now when we start getting to something like this, notice we have this polynomial subtract this polynomial. These are the hardest problems that you're going to run into. Subtraction is very tricky, because think about it, we're subtracting this entire polynomial here. So we're subtracting that entire polynomial. So we've got to go through and be really careful with our negatives. Now let me show you how I teach my secondary 3 kids this so that they don't make any errors. If we wanted to get technical, what we really have here is negative 1 times all that stuff. Okay, if you look at it like this, you're less likely to make errors because we know how to distribute. We just practiced. So we're going to take negative 1 times 3x squared, which is negative 3x squared. And then negative 1 times negative 2x would be positive 2x. Okay? This is a way to take care of the negatives and not make any errors. And now we can just drop down this front thing because it was not behind a minus sign. So we still have 2x squared minus 5x. And now from here, we can just combine like terms. So we've got to just be very careful with the negative. If you ever just have a negative in front, meaning subtraction, I would rewrite it as negative 1 and then distribute it through to each term. And that's what we got right here. All right. So let's go ahead and combine like terms. Starting with my highest degree, it looks like it's x squared. So we have 2x squared minus 3x squared, which would be minus 1x squared. You combine 2x squared minus 3x squared, you would get negative 1x squared. And I cross them out as I go so I don't make any errors. And then we have negative 5x's plus 2x's, which would be negative 3x's. I combine negative 5x, positive 2x, and I get negative 3x's. Now notice this one is in standard form. Now keep in mind, you're not going to see the answer written with this 1. How they'll write this final answer would be negative x squared minus 3x. Because we know it goes without being said that that 1 is there. They won't write it because we're in advanced math now. So I would really strongly encourage you to go back through and in final answers, if you ever have a 1, not to write it, because we know it goes without being said that there's that 1 there. All right, let's do another one with subtraction. Now watch me carefully. All right, now I'm going to do problem number 13 on the worksheet. So if you want to go through it with me, I'll go pretty slow on this one. All right, so number 13. Now looking at this, we have this polynomial, subtract, in subtract we have to be careful. Subtract this polynomial. So once again, only with subtraction, only when we're dealing with negatives, I would rewrite this as -1. I would think of this instead of subtraction as -1, and then we can go through and distribute that -1 through, because when dealing with our negatives, we have to be really careful. So let's go ahead and ignore this over here, and let's distribute -1 through to this polynomial. -1 times 8 is -8. -1 times 3a to the 4th is -3a to the 4th. And then we have -1 times 8a squared. So that would be -8a squared. So now we've distributed our -1 through, we're all set. So now we're going to go ahead and drop down this front polynomial. We still have 7a squared plus a to the 4th minus 8. And now we'll combine like terms. Now notice the reason we don't distribute the negative through here is because there's not a negative in front. So don't unaccidentally say, oh, there's a negative, I'm going to distribute it through over here on this side. No, just distribute it through just like we did in this example to where it goes. So it was -1 times all this stuff. So we distributed that through. And now you'll simply combine like terms. Now we have to be careful. Let's start with our highest degree and work our way down so our polynomial's in standard form. So looking at this, my highest degree is 4. So we have 1a to the 4th minus 3a to the 4th. So 1a to the 4th minus 3a to the 4th is -2a to the 4th. Now I like to cross them out as I go so that I don't forget what I have and have not added. All right, so let's move to the next highest degree. It looks like there's no cubes. There's nothing to degree 3. So we'll move on. Now the next highest would be degree 2. So we have 7a squared and -8a squared. We're going to combine them. 7a squared minus 8a squared is -1a squared. Once again, I like to cross them out as I go so I don't miss anything. And then right here, very careful, I have -8 minus 8. That does not become 0, guys. Think about it. -8 minus 8 more would be -16. Now, because I would just double check, because we simplified this by starting with our highest degree to lowest, it should be in standard form, but I would check. It never hurts to check. Highest degree, the next highest degree, the next highest degree. So I would accept this as an answer, but once again, think about it. We have here, what we really have is -2a to the 4th, and then this -1a squared is the same thing as saying -a squared. It goes without being said that that 1 is there. So -a squared and then -16. So once again, I'm going to push you to try your hardest to not write in those ones, just because we're now in advanced math and we need to be able to see things the most simplified way, the way we would see it on an ACT or on an exam. Okay, so thank you. I hope this video helped. Now you should be able to do the entire worksheet. Be very careful, guys. Be very careful. The substitute has a key. The substitute has a key, so you can check your answers. Be so careful with negatives, okay? Thank you for watching.